Hello and welcome to the Low Tox Life podcast.
Sustainability is a journey and no one is ever going to reach the final destination. There's always going to be innovation and always going to be changes.
Hi, I'm Alex Stewart, your host. I'm thrilled to have you here. And it's a really special show this week as we focus on plastics recycling in the context of the amazing community solutions that people dream up. And Lottie Dalziel is one such human, founder of Banish, a Forbes 30 Under 30 winner, the New South Wales Young Australian of the Year in 2023. Lottie is determined to remain optimistic and solution-focused in both the SOS of the now as well as the long game of reducing the amount of plastic on our planet. If you are someone who maybe you do Plastic-Free July and you try and knock down a few more bits of plastic that you have as go-to products in your day-to-day, maybe you've only just started to realise so much of what I use is plastic, and I even reflect often on some of my go-to things that become go-tos because I like the performance of the product and what it does for me or my family or my home, only to kind of think, gee, I wish there was a better solution for this that achieved the same results. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about today, as well as the incredible community and solution that Lottie has built through Banish, a micro recycling facility here in Sydney in Central Station. We're going to learn more about Banish and how you can get involved, how you can start to look for micro recycling facilities where you live in the world. So let's jump in after a quick word from our wonderful show sponsors, and I hope you love the hope-filled messages from our wonderful guest Lottie today. There are a lot of things that we can think we need when it comes to reducing our environmental toxin exposures and improving the health of our homes. Two things that I genuinely believe move the needle massively are dehumidifiers and air purifiers. Just like us needing walking and sunshine and water, our homes need care as well, and dehumidification, especially once you know through getting a climate gauge, and that's the easiest thing. That's like a $20 spend to pop one in a couple of different areas of your home. If you see that those are over 60% humidity regularly, this is why we end up with those moldy clothes and bags and shoes in the back of a cupboard in the shady bedroom of the house. So if you haven't invested in a dehumidifier, please go check out ozclimate.com.au. If you're an Aussie, if you're overseas, there will no doubt be a great dehumidifier brand in your part of the world. But I do know you can get OzClimate in Australia and New Zealand, and you have 10% off with the code LOWTOXLIFE, and that often works on top of sale prices. And if you have any questions on the Instagram feed at LowToxLife, if you scroll down a little bit on the main feed, you'll see a huge stack of tiles that have a white background with a parts 1 through 10. And that is a whole suite of dehumidifying how-tos, why-tos, when-tos, what-tos to help you feel more literate, know what you should get and when you should use it. Something our OG human bodies have definitely not evolved to deal with and filter is all of the toxins that you find in modern drinking water. The bacteria, fungi, viruses have always existed in water as a possible danger, but now we also have to deal with modern man-made chemicals, chlorine that's added in, fluoride that's added in, plastics, nanoplastics, microplastics, PFAS, forever chemicals. That's a lot. So just like those dehumidifiers and air purifiers, my trio of things that we need in the modern life, waterscoaustralia.com.au are brilliant. Their smallest, most basic water filter still has 7 stages of water filtration and a remineralization step for your trace minerals. So that's pretty powerful, but the biggest one, we have it, the Bio 1000 benchtop water filter has 15 stages of filtration. And so everything you choose in the range is a great idea. And then it's up to you what you have the budget for, what you have the space for. If you choose the subscription model, which auto subscribes you to discounted refills ongoing, and you can cancel that anytime, I highly recommend the brand. 40 years of Korean water technology research, infiltration behind it, always improving every day, every year. waterscoaustralia.com.au. Hey Lottie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me today.
I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. I still can't believe it took me this many years to meet you recently when we finally, myself and Claire Press, who I also hadn't met in person, after so many years of speaking and advocating for the same kinds of things, we came down to Banish. And it was the most wholesome start to our little excursion when we saw a group of preschool kids playing like kitchen with all the things in the window and your amazing team explaining things and helping the teachers explain things. It was just so lovely. And I felt like, yeah, this is the kind of human experience I want to sign up for. So let's start by talking about some of your drive and where it comes from to have started to do some of the things you do in your early years that led to you getting one of the biggest Australian accolades as a young Australian of the year. Like that's huge.
Yeah, it's still something that I can't actually quite believe. But I think for me, in essence, I don't think I ever really knew what I wanted to do. If we're talking like a career perspective or something like that, like I was never one of those people who was like, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. When I
Yeah.
finish school, I want to do this. When I finish university, I want to do this. I honestly didn't really know. And I think, though, something that was probably a core theme is that I've always loved community and I've always loved helping people, but I didn't really understand how I could turn that into something and how I could dedicate my life to be doing something like that. So it wasn't really until I was trying to live more sustainably as an individual that I kind of went, hang on, this is really difficult, really hard. I'm really struggling with this. But when I was working as a journalist at the time, I was working in the health and fitness space. So disseminating large studies and information from a health perspective so that people could then be fitter or healthier or, I don't know, do something that was better for them physically. And I was going, well, why aren't we doing this for the planet's health? Why can't I apply the same principles to living more sustainably? Because I do believe that it's very similar. It's all about creating those small habits. It's those micro steps. It's the compounds that over time will make a really big difference. But it kind of seemed like when it came to living sustainably, it was like an all or nothing approach. I was going, we don't apply an all or nothing approach to health and fitness. If we, I don't know, signed up for a marathon, quit sugar, stopped eating, I don't know, gluten, and then also signed up to do strength class all in the same week, that's not going to be sustainable.
You'd give up in a week.
Exactly. So when it came to living sustainably, I was like, well, if we decide to ban plastics, never consume meat again, I don't know, stop driving our car, never wash our hair, it's not going to be sustainable and it's not going to work either. So why don't we just apply those same principles to living sustainably? So that's kind of how I started. And I think as part of that, it really lent into community because when I was on my own sustainability journey, I felt very isolated because I was the only person in my household, in my friendship group, in my family, doing all of these changes and making all of these steps.
So can I ask you on that front, because this is something a lot of people struggle with when they first become curious about a different way to do things, right? Is how did you have conversations with people around you saying, "Oh my gosh, I've found this out. How do you feel about this? Should we do something? Should we change something?" And were you kind of getting almost social knockback from the people around you, like, "Oh, I don't have time for that," or was it like something else?
I think I probably wasn't in that stage at that point where I was like, let's do this together. I was just kind of like, this is what I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
This is what I'm going to be changing, and kind of was leading more from a way of almost like a role model. I'm going to be doing this. You can choose whether you want to be doing this or not. So I didn't want to put pressure on people. I didn't want to kind of be that person that was bossy and doing things, but it would be things like I'd meet a girlfriend for a walk and I'd be like, I bought you a reusable cup too, so we can have a coffee together. It was little micro movements. And I think that's been the approach for Banish from the get-go, is very much acknowledging the fact that no one is perfect. No one is living sustainably perfectly, because that is not, I don't think it's a thing to be perfect when it comes to this, but we're all doing our best. And that's what we want to be doing, is we want to try to be a little bit better than we were yesterday. So I think it's about being approachable and acknowledging that the everyday person is still going to consume plastic and still going to do things that are harmful for the planet, but how can we do better?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the times I've felt the most sense of failure around I'm not good enough is actually when the zero waste trend came through the interwebs, and you'd have these creators with their little jar of here's all the plastic I've used in a month or whatever. I found that really repelling. I found it really, like, I was instantly ashamed. I'm never going to be good at this. And I'm someone who literally works in this space for a large portion of my work time. So then I moved, though, to that's ridiculous and unhelpful. And then I was attracted to people like oh gosh, what's his surname? Greenfield. The guy who wore his trash like collected it and
Yeah.
wore it for a month. I had him on the show years ago. And that I found really powerful, because that was here's what it looks like. How could we make it look like a bit less? And that for me is so much more empowering, because you get a visceral reaction to how gross the problem is instead of how grossly underperforming you are as an individual. And I don't think that ever helps to pin it all on personal responsibility, because there are so many lazy policies or lacks of policies entirely that actually have us facing these problems to begin with. So the idea that we would be falsely lured into this sense that it's all on us either is really just, I find that a really awful way to go. And it's kind of a way we all end up figuring out, those of us who've been on this track for a while now, I think.
Exactly. And I think it's that whole thing, is that the comparison is really hard. If you're comparing yourself to people online, if you're comparing yourselves to friends, you're seeing kind of everything with rose-colored glasses. You don't see what's going on behind the scenes. You don't see all of the other things. You might never drive your car, but then they've got their little jar of plastic that they've consumed for the last year. That's not okay. We don't need to be doing that. What I think we all need to be doing is kind of what you were saying, is looking at what can we do just that little bit better. And it feels like it doesn't make a difference until you start really, it's kind of like a snowball and a compounding effect. All of these little things do eventually add up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things I've seen is consumer trend changes if enough awareness is built. And so you're still going to buy stuff to eat, buy stuff to put on your body. Maybe you're going to make a lot of your own stuff, but you'll still have to buy the ingredients to make the stuff. There's buying in the equation in our modern world. We can't get away from that. But if enough people buy differently, and a company's sales graph starts to look in decline, well, they start to ask, well, why? They do consumer testing surveys, find out a lot of people aren't happy with the excess packaging, and go, let's change something. They don't want to go out of business. So in that sense, I think groundswells are really going to stay very important. But a question I want to ask you, Lottie, first up, is you would have dealt with a lot of government officials, departments, grant bodies, etc. Do you feel like a huge part of why the struggle continues to feel a bit hopeless is because we're not seeing those policies, the bold action that changes the way we design and build things in the first place?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't feel helpless. I feel like we are making changes and we are making moves in comparison to what it was like when I started 8 years ago. I kind of am of the opinion that yes, we need government to change and policy to change, and yes, we need businesses to change. But while we wait for them to change, we can lead the change.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really advocating for, and exactly what you were just saying then about big brands making big changes because of consumer trends and buying power that we have as individuals. I think if we were to sit around and wait for these plans to roll out or these policies that people are talking about in Parliament, we'd be old and grey. Like, we'd be here for way too long. So while that kind of goes through all of the systems and all of the processes, us as individuals, there's no barriers. We don't have to ask anybody's opinion. We don't have to ask for approval. We can just start doing things. And I know for a lot of people, they might think that individuals don't have the power to create change, but I feel like what we've been doing at Brad and at Banish is an example of the fact that if we waited for there to be extended producer responsibility and EPR schemes for a lot of the streams that we take at Brad, the program wouldn't exist. But in the meantime, we've been able to recycle millions of items and keep them out of landfill. So should we have just waited for policy, or should we have just gotten started and then
100%.
policy can change?
I love it. It's so important. And this is why I wanted to have you on, because I think when we understand better how you got these things off the ground, why you chose to do it, how you did it, and what we can all do to either support these sorts of initiatives wherever we are in the world, wherever we can find them, people are going to realise there is actually a lot we can do. And in doing that and sharing it online and getting more people to change their behaviour, we also then make this an election type issue in our local councils, in those smaller, sort of lower levels of policy making and community drives. So how did Banish take shape as an actual thing, a tangible thing? Because I don't imagine that was an easy process.
No, I feel like, as so many kind of startups, Banish has looked like many things over the years and probably will look like many things in the future as well. So initially, when I first started Banish 8 years ago, it started as an education platform, which it has been since day one, to help teach more people how to live more sustainably. So really leaning on my journalism skills to educate, to dissect big studies, to do all of the research and put that information out there for the everyday person to consume. But also, when it first started, it was an e-commerce platform as well, because when I was on my sustainability journey, I was investing in things like reusable straws, cotton cloths to clean your kitchen, all of these things. And I was trying to find brands that were actually doing the right thing for the planet. And I was just getting caught by greenwashing left, right, and center. I would order a set of stainless steel straws after hours of research, and they would come individually wrapped in plastic. And I would kind of go, well, what was the point of that? That was really annoying. And I've just spent my money with a brand that I think was doing the right thing, just to be completely led up the garden path. And I was meant to be somebody who was educated and was able to do research. So I started collecting brands for small Australian businesses that were doing the right thing. And they didn't have the big certifications. They didn't have the Modern Slavery Act, because they were hand knitting their own dishcloths in front of the fire in regional Victoria. But they didn't know how to market themselves to the rest of Australia. So I would do that and help get them more business and get more people on board and get more people normalizing living sustainably. So it wasn't just people who had been living like this way for the last 50 years. There were all of these new people who were going, hang on, maybe I could try beeswax wraps. Let me just dip my toes in and see what happens. So that was originally how Banish started. So we were the education platform and then the marketplace. And it kind of was growing. COVID happened. It absolutely went bananas, which was amazing. But something that I felt really strongly is that as a brand, I wanted to be able to give back. I wanted to be able to do something. And as you know, there's so many ways that you could do that. You could donate a percentage of profits, you could plant a tree, you could carbon offset. There's all of these things that sound great, but they don't really do anything for the individual. Like, yes, you get that like little hit, like, oh yeah, I did something great, but I wanted something that came down to that education. And at the same point, I'd been living sustainably for I think 3 or 4 years, but I was still having to throw things into my red bin every week, every month. I'd look at these items like the pill packets, I'd look at beauty products, I'd look at plastic bread tags and kind of go, well, if these items are made from plastic, then why can't I recycle them? And I did a lot of research then, and I found small Australian micro recyclers who could actually recycle these materials, but they would go, "Look, Lottie, we can't take 4 bread tags. We need thousands of bread tags." Or, "We can't take your 6 blister packs. We need 100 kilos of blister packs." So I would just write down everything that they told me, all of the minimum quantities. And I put it out online and I said, look, if you feel like me and you also want a way to be able to recycle these items, send them to me in the mail. Because I thought that the thought process behind Brad was, send me the plastic items you've already got at home once you've finished with them, and then swap to a more sustainable option. Acknowledging that if you've just found out about the fact that, I don't know, plastic toothbrushes are not great, finish the plastic toothbrushes you've already got at home. Don't go be inspired and throw everything out in your bathroom. Use your way through everything and then make a sustainable switch. So I just said to our online community, send me your recycling in the mail. I spoke to my roommates at the time. I said, look, I've got this bizarre idea. I don't know if anybody's actually going to do it. So I don't have money for rent, to get a space to do anything. I want to do it in the backyard. And they were like, oh my gosh, you're bizarre, but sure, why not?
Crazy lady.
Yeah, just don't put our address out online. And I was like, okay. And I think in the first month after starting Brad, we got 3 shoeboxes that came through the mail.
Now, for the new people who have not heard of Banish and who've heard you say Brad a few times now, tell us what that means.
Yes, sorry. So Brad stands for the Banish Recycling and Diversion Program. So it is what we named the program, what I named the program, because one, it's fun to be like, I'm going to send everything to Brad. But Brad has now kind of got almost this personality and this persona that everybody is like, I'm going to put things in my Brad box. So yes, I said to people, send your things to Brad and then we'll see what happens. So we got 3 shoeboxes in the first month that weren't from my mum or my aunt, and I was pretty excited about that.
That's always exciting.
And then I think in the second month, after the first month, I went, look, this is going to take a while for me to get these items together, but we'll get there eventually. And in the second month, we received 70 shoeboxes that came in from around Australia. And I went, okay, I'm not on my own. Other people also feel like this. All the other people also want to be able to recycle these items, but they don't know how. Quite quickly, my backyard filled up with boxes. There was just stuff everywhere because word got out. People got excited. They'd go over to somebody's house. They'd be like, why do you have a box on the top of your fridge that just says Brad on it? It had sparked conversation. People wanted a solution to be able to recycle these items. So we then moved into a self-storage unit and we were sorting all of the shoeboxes in the fire escape in this unit. And as I was documenting my journey online of my backyard being quite literally taken over by these boxes, I had complete strangers reaching out saying, look, Lottie, you've got a lot of boxes there. You're sorting them by yourself all weekend. Can I come over and help you sort it out? I never set out to have volunteers, but all of these people were going, I just really want to be a part of the solution and I don't know how to take action. So we started having volunteers come. They would come in and at the self-storage unit, we could only fit 4 or 5 people in the fire escape. So we'd have all of these great people who just put their hands up, say, you know what, I can do 3 hours. I can help you sort through this. It was at the time when we were in the self-storage unit that we were featured on the War on Waste for the work that we were doing in this space. And I think as a probably naive, healthy 24-year-old, I didn't realize how many people were consuming the pill packets. And that was something that really sparked the eyes of the War on Waste team and kind of then took on a whole nother kind of avenue, seeing us with these huge bulker bags filled with them, going, well, why aren't brands taking responsibility for it? So that was really exciting for us. And then it was while I was in this self-storage unit that I was named the New South Wales Young Australian of the Year for the work that we were doing with Brad, but also just in general with teaching people about how to live more sustainably. And then fast forward now, we've got the hub at Central Station where we're processing materials, where people can drop off, where we have at least 500 volunteers through every single year that come in and help with the program. And now we're receiving about 70 shoeboxes a day that come in from around Australia.
Yeah, I've seen this wall and it is quite a wall of stuff. Do you ever feel like, oh my gosh, it's like an insurmountable amount of plastic? Like, do you have those days where you're frustrated that this even is needed as a band-aid sometimes.
I think I don't get frustrated by the brad wall. I get inspired because each box represents a household that's probably been collecting their items for 6 to 8 months, that they've been squirreling everything away. So for me, it is really exciting. I think if I kind of zoom out a little bit, I am frustrated that it falls on individuals and it falls on us to do this work because there aren't the right systems in place. But right now, I'm not really letting myself think about that too much because we don't have time. We've just got to sort these boxes and
You've
get
got to
through
get
it.
your plastic recycled.
We do. And it's
Yeah.
been really interesting, I think, the conversations we've been having with different organizations, because they're like, oh, well, yes, you accept single-use cutlery, but it's banned. I'm going, well, we're still getting 20 to 30 kilos of that every single month. And they're like, oh, but most plastic bread tags have now switched over to paper ones. I'm going, well, there's still a lot out there. So I think while sometimes policy can change, it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening in practice. So we need to be looking after the waste that's being created in those systems and those processes still.
Absolutely. I mean, often you see a policy announcement and the fine print is actually that that's not happening until 2029 because, companies need to phase things out and we can't affect the stock prices because that affects people's super. Like, I feel like we're so ingrained in this system needing to keep growing and working. That is why there's going to be a long time where Banish is still required and needed to help. Um, when it comes to something I love that you just said there, Lottie, was each box represents a household. And that for me is where the hope is because it's actually a story about people being more intentional. It's actually a story about people uh, being more aware and present to the usage of things. And that in itself then changes consumer behavior. Because once you're present and aware, like I had an awareness recently where, I'm 50 and starting to get these lines, and I love my lines because lines are a story. And I'm not considering anything in the surgical or injection realm at all. That's just me. But I did notice myself starting to be a bit more excited about things that were addressing lines, let's say, in personal care. And then I was like, these are all soft plastics. They're all tubes and they're all soft tubes. And that's much harder to recycle than a dropper jar with a serum, where at least you've got 70% or 90% glass and then the little dropper. And, just even that for me, that means that's going to be something that I change. And I'm probably going to not buy about 100 soft tubes in my lifetime. And so I do think it's important that we always remember we make a difference because that awareness piece drives so many little thought processes, right?
Exactly. And I think with these items, like, part of the reason why we take them is because they're too complex. They're really difficult to recycle, but often by mainstream recycling, they're seen as too small and insignificant because it is a resource game. It's about volume and quantities. But I think even when households are collecting them together, you think about the size of a bread tag or the size of a bottle top lid, but when you start building it up over time, you do see that impact. You do see the amount of plastic. I think it's like what happened when we saw the closure of the soft plastics program. We all realized how much soft plastic we were consuming because we couldn't just recycle it. We had to start putting it into our landfill bins again. And that was a really big eye-opening experience for everybody. And it was kind of going, well, yes, that recycling system was broken, but rather than blaming the system, we should also be changing our behaviors as well. And we're probably relying on recycling. And I think that's something that I'm really conscious of with Brad is, as much as I love recycling, the best thing that we can be doing is to be using less and to be changing our behaviors. And I don't want it to be seen as we can just recycle it. It should be what you were mentioning just before, of looking at the materials, the quality of the materials, and the best kind of packaging is no packaging at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The best kind of world is where I think, fuck the wrinkles. Like at the end of the day, like I don't need anything for them. But I agree. I think there's always such a spectrum in everything, and you can always shift your little plot on the spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, what does a day in the life of Banish look like?
It's a good question, and I feel like so many people in your podcast are like, no day, 2 days are the same, but really, no 2 days are ever the same. I feel like it's always very different. For us, if I'm kind of going into the hub, I will normally have gone into the ocean or done something like that beforehand, or gone for a walk or done something like that just to kind of clear my head before the day. And then we open up the doors, people will come in and do a drop off. If it's Tuesday through Thursday, we probably won't have our community volunteers in, so we'll be loud and noisy and in production. So what that means is we shred down the bottle top lids that we receive and turn them into new products. For me, it could be then going out and to a school or to a corporate or to a community group and educating them on how to live more sustainably. We take our extruder machines off site a lot of the time, so we can then make pens with people or carabiners, so they can see firsthand the bottle top lids being shredded up and then turned into something new. And it really just changes because the conversations we're able to have with these different people who come into the hub are amazing. They'll be asking questions about recycling, or they'll just want somebody to kind of empathize with them on something that they're struggling with at the time. And then it'll be as much social media as I can, getting out there and reaching more people outside of the hub. So for us, social media is a really great tool to connect with people all across Australia, to inspire behaviour change, and then probably finishing up and heading home for the day. So that would be kind of typical, but it's always different. Today I'm chatting to you, we've got 16 people right now at the sustainability hub sorting through the bottle top lids, and then it'll be a lot of crowd control, cleaning up, getting ready for the next 16 to come in tomorrow morning. So it really does change, but I think the common theme there is talking to people.
Yeah.
That's my job, is a professional talker.
Professional talker. Yeah, I feel like a bit of one of those as well. And so you make things, obviously, and I saw a lot of the different things that you made, and I was thrilled to know that you had air filtration in place because obviously soft plastic's not great for our hormones. So that was like the first thing I was worried about for you guys. I was like, are you protected? And I saw the masks, and so I was like, okay, good, great. But you make a lot of really interesting things that I didn't even think about before. And my hospitality hat just came on straight away. And I thought, oh, this would be an amazing way to plug in to some circular thinking in hospo, which a lot of operators want to do because waste costs a huge amount of money on a P&L for a hospitality business, especially little ones that don't have good infrastructure. And then you make some really cool things like the earrings you're wearing. So they're so fun. What makes you decide what you make, when, and why?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And since you've been in, I don't know how long you came in, maybe 2 months ago, we've already got new machines.
Oh, wow. What do the new
changing.
machines do? What do they do?
They are bigger machines than the current ones that we have. So we've kind of upgraded. So we make sheets of plastics. They're kind of like giant tiles that are made from the bottle top lids. So our old machines were making 40 by 40 centimeter sheets. Our new machines were making 60 by 60 centimeter sheets, which means about double the surface area. And also we can do a lot different thicknesses. So pretty much when we have these sheets of plastic, then it's like a blank slate. We can make anything and everything. And I think that is something that is amazing, but it also makes a lot of design challenges. And I think a question that we're always asking ourselves in the kind of design and the production meetings is this something that is actually needed? Because we don't want to be creating stuff for the sake of creating stuff. Everything needs to be quite conscious. It needs to be usable for a very long period of time. And it needs to be something that is going to be used well and not just for the fact that, oh yes, this is made from recycled plastic. This is great. So I think that's something that I think we play devil's avocado a lot, kind of going, but is this something that we need? Do we need to be pushing this? So the point of sale items that we're working on for cafes is really exciting. And we've been doing a couple of different collaborations now with different brands, and kind of how do we bring their brand identity to life using the bottle top lids to really educate and share that story, which is really exciting. So
So good. Well, like, I mean, if you imagine a cafe chain and like 10 cafes keeping all their milk tops, and then you turning it into something for their cafes, like, that's just so cool.
exactly. And I think it's something that it helps share that story and spread that
Mm,
message. So we just did a collaboration with a cafe in Surrey Hills called the Sweet Chick. So we collected all of their lids and then we've made things for them like open and close signs,
mm,
table numbers, the little price tags in their bakery cases. I don't know, holders for all of their bamboo cutlery, all of these different things that for us, it's just going, the possibilities are endless. So, what could we do with this? So, really looking forward to doing more of that. And as well, I'm really conscious of the fact that as Brad grows, as the more plastic we receive, we need to grow and expand the amount of plastic that goes out because we have to be recycling everything. So, part of us getting more larger machines means we're going to be using up more plastic because we don't want to be sitting on extra plastic. It needs, like, part of the circular economy for us is creating demand for the products made from recycled materials.
absolutely. That's a part that really interests me, as someone who helps businesses in all sorts of ways. And I think there's just so much opportunity to tap into the this beautiful awakening into circularity concepts. Mm.
Exactly. And I think as well, something that people find interesting in our design process is that we're pretty much like the biggest hoarders you've ever met. We do not have any waste at all. Like, to the
Yeah.
fact that when we cut things on our CNC machines, we cut the sheets, we will collect that vacuum dust and then we will remelt the vacuum dust and then press it into more sheets to then make new products. Or my earrings, for example, are every time we inject a product, there is a tiny little nub over an offcut. So we collect all of those up. Again, we press them into more sheets and then we create beautiful art pieces like clocks or like my earrings, because that in itself is like, production can be wasteful. The whole industry can be wasteful, but we want to be a real living example that if you think consciously about it, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. And we've seen so many beautiful examples of this in denim land, like with, I think, the Swedish brand Mud Jeans and Outland Denim and the things they're doing with offcuts and bringing them back in. Do you think part of it is actually, as you speak to different business owners, people feeling like that part of things is just too hard? So I actually have to throw it away because I'm so stretched as a small business? Or is
I
there
think
a stress that sometimes prevents us from having almost the headspace and creativity or like ability to research and think, oh, let's collaborate with Lottie and Banish and what would that look like, and all the meetings then, and then you think, oh my gosh, I don't think I actually can do this. Does
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think small businesses are definitely stretched and there's
Mm,
always a lot of different balls that they're juggling. I also think that it does come down to a cost perspective as well.
mm.
Every business is conscious of costs. And ultimately, putting something in landfill in New South Wales and a lot of other states does cost money.
Yeah.
But it also then is a cost to invest time into figuring out the new systems, into different processes. So when unfortunately I have conversations with some businesses, sustainability won't be a part of the budget. So we will need to fit into their marketing budget or into a different slice of the pie. So that is a frustration that I think I have sometimes, is because people will put money into different elements of the business, but they won't put it into the planet. So I think that's something that I would love to see change across all businesses, not
Oh,
just small businesses.
totally. But to your point, if you can pitch it in a way that has it make sense on a P&L within an existing spend, where it doesn't cost more, it's just a movement of money from one way of doing things to another, then that's probably a way to get attention.
Exactly. And I think that's really exciting and that's really great. One thing that I think I find difficult when we're talking to brands and businesses is when they think that because something is recycled, it's cheaper.
Mm.
And in many cases right now, because of the way that we function in Australia, it isn't. If so, in some cases it might cost you more money, and people don't understand that because they're going, but this used to be waste. And it's going, well, no, you've paid for that not to go out of into landfill. You've paid for this to be made by people in Australia, and that costs money. And I think that's probably something that I would like to advocate for the industry of micro recyclers in Australia is we're artisans. We are making things that are beautiful. When we make pens, at max we can make 4 pens in one go. It's still, yes, we can make 60 in an hour. Compare that with overseas manufacturing. You can't compare the cost of our pens with somebody else. Yes, they're made from recycled plastics, but that doesn't mean they're cheaper. It means that it's a more of a premium product. So I think that's something as well that people need to understand. And I think that's, yeah, just something I would also like to advocate for.
Yeah, absolutely. And where do you see that growth taking you guys next? You've bought the new machines. Like, how much were those machines to invest in?
I feel like in general, I'm probably quite a risk adverse business owner
Mm-hmm.
because everything is small incremental steps. We
Mm.
don't have government support or funding or investors. So everything is bootstrapped and we need to kind of grow sustainably as a business. So it's kind of like we've maxed out our old machines. Now we're investing in the next machine. So it
Mm.
is steps up. So yeah, tens of thousands of dollars, but it is something that now we understand the demand that we're getting, and we can't keep up with the demand with our old machines. So that's why this is the next step for us.
Awesome. And how do you grow spatially as well? Because Sydney rent isn't nothing. So,
Yes, it is
yeah.
a good question, and I feel like my team spend a lot of their time negotiating with themselves, being like, "I want that shelf, I want this space, I want
Mm.
this." So it is something that is definitely difficult. We're looking to kind of get a secondary space for us at the moment, just because, as you were in the other day, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of movement, but also something that I love is when we have community in and how we can activate and bring sustainability to life. And we play a bit of a juggling act with production being loud and noisy. So we can't have volunteers in, with them wanting to have the volunteers in. So then production has to stop. So it is a bit of a juggling act. I think one of the beauties of the fact that we're at Central Station, you can see recycling happening, is amazing, but also at the same time it makes it difficult. So yes, looking for a second space, TBC on what that will look like and how that will be, but we'll be at Central Station for a long time because for me it's so important for us to be accessible. We want to be in the heart of the centre so that people can drop off their recycling, so they can see the space, so they can ask questions. I don't want to be tucked away in the back of an industrial estate.
100%. It's like so much of what we experienced, Claire and I, when we were down there was so visceral and so exciting to be able to touch, to be able to see, to be able to walk to a cafe 1 minute away afterwards and have chats. And, I think that's really powerful. So is this the point in the podcast where we ask for a rich benefactor to buy the commercial property that you need in the central location? Would that be helpful?
That would be lovely. I would
Yeah.
love that. And I think it's difficult. And I don't know if this is me from a business perspective, not having a clear kind of strategic goal and kind of meandering our way through. But I think for us, the part of the journey, like it is a journey. We don't have a clear destination. I think ultimately in 50 years' time, I would love for Brad not to exist because this packaging doesn't exist, or there's really easy, simple ways for everybody to be able to recycle it. So that is the end goal. But in the meantime, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of plastic that we want to be transforming and turning into new items. We're not going to be mass manufacturing. That's not us. That's what I think is the beauty of the products, is they're all unique, they're all different, they're all beautiful. So yes, more space would be lovely. If you know of anybody, give me
Oh,
a call.
it's always worth putting it out there. And something that we were talking about before we hit record was this sense of if it's not affecting me directly, it's not my problem. And there's a real culture that's, I feel, has almost kind of proliferated around this idea rather than a sense of community and network thinking and systems thinking to encourage systems change that I felt like was much more alive sometimes 10 years ago than it is now, which there's very much a me because of the pressures of modern life. And I don't deny that. I've experienced it myself. There are so many things that we turn a blind eye to in systems that aren't working until they affect us. And then it's often way too big to feel like you can do much. But you've helped us actually feel like plastic is not going to be one of those things and that everyone can actually make this a part of their day to day. So I guess I'd love to end our chat by exploring what that circularity, this is my problem, and it's actually not a big problem for me to incorporate some of this into my day to day looks like. So if we're going to commit to Brad, which I think is $10, like on a long-term basis.
We love Brad. Yes.
Yeah. As a dependable constant in our lives. $10 for 2 kilo bag.
So that's if you drop it off, it's $10 for 2 kilos. And then if you send it to us in the post, it's $18 for a shoebox, which is 2 kilos, or $30 for a case of beer sized box, which we say is about $40 for 4 kilos. Sorry. So yeah, that's pretty much a beer box is 2 shoe boxes. So that's kind of how we work it out. So if you want to start collecting these items, you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to spend any money just yet. Just start using a box you've already got at home, put it under the kitchen sink, put it under the bathroom sink, and just start putting these little items into that box and see it build up. That is the most powerful thing. Even if then you have to throw it all in landfill because you don't want to pay the money, just acknowledging that consumption is really, really important. Obviously, we want you to be able to recycle all of that with Brad. But I think in general, it's acknowledging that everybody still has plastic in their household, or most people still have plastic in their household. So use up what you've already got. Don't feel inspired and go through your bathroom and throw out every single piece of plastic in there. If you were one of those people that bought a pack of 20 plastic toothbrushes, use them all, recycle them, and then make a sustainable switch. It's not an overnight success story. We're making those small things. Sustainability is a journey, and no one is ever going to reach the final destination. There's always going to be innovation and always going to be changes. So start collecting it. But also the next time you do go to consume something, or you do go to purchase something at your supermarket, I would just challenge people to not just compare the price, but also to compare the environmental impact. You don't have to make the more environmentally conscious choice, but just thinking about it is a really powerful metric and a powerful tool. Something that I feel really passionately about. I wrote a book that was published last year, which is called 365 Ways to Save the Planet and Your Money at the same time. Very long title. But it is all about those kind of micro steps, those small little things that we can do. And it might be something like when you are at the supermarket making a choice, going, but if I spend $4 extra on this item, then I'm going to have it for an extra 1 year. So the actual benefit is going to be there financially if I can spend that extra $4 today. So it's those little things, I think, about thinking long term, not just that short term purchase of what's on sale right now. How can I make the biggest sale today? Is saving today. It's about kind of what's going to be a long-term efficiency, not only for my wallet, but also for the planet as well. Things like a single-use coffee cup, ditching those and swapping to a reusable. Obviously, there's the health benefits of drinking from these, but also many cafes do incentivize you to bring your own. It's better for small businesses if they're not having to spend money on these single-use plastic coffee cups. So you could also think of it like that. And I think people don't understand when they're in that coffee shop line, if you remember your reusable cup, you are actually a role model for everybody else in that line. You don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to sing about it from the rooftops. You don't need to say to everybody else in the line that you're doing a terrible thing, but you're reminding them to bring their reusable cup tomorrow. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize is sometimes advocating for change and sometimes living more sustainably isn't about being scary and confrontational. It's just by leading by example. And I think that's how we like to lead at Banish, is going, here are a couple of suggestions of what you can do. It's not going to be the same for everybody because everybody lives differently, but there might be a couple of things that you can pick up and you can start implementing tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing I really like about Brad is that you can even just start to feel better about the fact that not everyone in your household wants to go to the same degree that you do. But what they do commit to is putting those sorts of things in the box. So it's really good for those households where someone is the North Star type of sustainability person, but a couple of other people go along with some of the things that are easy, but with some things that they don't want to give up, like their Oral-B kind of toothbrush or, things like that. It means there's still an option to be a more sustainable household as a collective, even if you have disagreements about what that needs to be in your own household, which most people do. So
Exactly.
That's why I always think, what is the level above where we can unite and agree on something and then take a positive action?
I think that's the kind of one of the conversations we have with so many people when they're doing their drop-offs at the hub. They're like, I don't even know what's in this bag. It's just from my auntie, or it's just from this person. I'm now the designated recycling mule that takes everybody's stuff into Brad. But it just takes that one person to say, look, you guys collect it and then I'll bring it in. And that's all that people need. And I think what we want to do is living sustainably should be easier. It should be easier to access that information. It should be easier to make a more conscious decision at the shops. And also recycling should be more accessible for people. And that's what we're really trying to do in kind of saying, you can put all of these items into a shoebox. They can be an absolutely mix mash of everything. And that's why we have these amazing volunteers are like, you've done part of it, I'll do the rest. I'll open up that shoebox and I'll separate and sort everything into the different streams. Yes, we receive boxes that we open up that are absolutely beautiful and everything has been separated and segmented, and we love that. But that's the beauty of Brad, is you don't have to spend your day off going to 6 different places to recycle these items. You just go to the post office or you drop it at the hub at Central Station and it's done. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is for so many people, the reason why why this service didn't exist beforehand was because it was too hard. It requires people to go above and beyond. And what we really want to do is make it as easy for people as possible.
Yeah, love it. And so when it comes to volunteering, if someone's curious about that, what does that look like?
Yeah, so
and you're just in Sydney? Do you plug into a network of other micro?
We plug in with the plastics that we receive. They go to different micro recyclers, but our only space is at Central Station in Sydney to volunteer. Our dates for volunteering get released 1 month in advance, so you'll be able to sign up online to those sessions. They happen every Friday morning and then also on the weekends as well. You simply sign up, no prior training is needed. You'll get taught everything on the day. The sessions run for 3 hours. They're generally 10 to 16 people, and I'm very biased, but they're so much fun. It's just great to feel like you're doing something, you're connecting with other people who also care about the planet. We don't really get that many sustainability professionals. Everybody's just like, I just want to do something. Let me help and let me be a part of it. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. I would recommend that people do book in early, because right now we've got a wait list of 10 people for tomorrow's session. So they do book out fast, which people find very surprising. But I think it just shows how much people just want to be a part of the solution. And it's really difficult to feel like you are a part of that. And a lot of the people who come are that person in their household who is the one that goes through the apartment buildings bins and resorts all of the recycling. And that is completely normal. Or the people who just go, I'm just here to learn and I just want to understand better if I'm doing the right thing at home. And I think that's what we want to do and we want to be for people.
Love it. Yeah, I'm that lady at the co-working office who sees the recycling bin not having the things that it should have, and I just kind of
subtly start resorting.
And it's so funny, 40-year-old Alex, no one looked at that as, like, they'd probably see it as quirky. 50-year-old Alex, you look like a annoying, naggy mum. It's really interesting how the woman's the perception of the woman changes as she gets older in terms of taking a stand on things. I think that's been really fascinating for me. I'm just like, wow, like you're that one who,
You're not that one for us. You're
No.
amazing for us.
Oh, thanks, Lottie. You're amazing for all of us too. And I think we have to just remember that it's bigger than us. So don't make it about you at all or what anyone thinks about you. If you want to do this, if you want to start plugging in and making a difference, I mean, 3 hours to feel like you're part of the solution, that would just feel so good that I think it's inarguable that what you're doing is making a difference, even as we all stand here frustrated by the fact that we even have to do this and we have to make up imaginary long-term boyfriends like Brad. But we do. And that's actually where we are. So let's actually get on with it and, write a letter to the MP on the same day. I think that's the killer combo, right?
Exactly. So I think that's the main thing is just, pull up your socks and get going and get moving and do what you can control. I think so many times we focus on what we can't, and that's where we get that kind of paralysis around not being able to take action. But I kind of like to take a step backwards and kind of go, well, what is that one thing that I can do right now that's going to make a difference? It doesn't matter if it's tiny and microscopic, it's going to do something and it's going to propel me to make those changes.
100%. Thank you so much for joining us, Lottie. It's an absolute thrill to have you on the show at last. And I look forward to coming down doing an Insta Live with my little Brad bag. And we can go through some of the stuff and have a little bit of a tour, because I think when people really see, I mean, obviously follow Banish on socials, it's inspiring. And if you're from overseas or a different city, trust me, there's probably a micro recycler somewhere that you can connect with. And we shall see you soon for a bit of a chapter 2 on Insta.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me, Alex. Can't wait to look through your Brad box and all of the listeners' Brad boxes when they come through the post or get dropped off too.
Pleasure. Thanks. Thank you for joining us in listening to this week's show. If you're not already subscribed or following the show on whatever platform you listened, please do that now. It helps enormously in terms of getting this show out to more people. Another way you can connect and support the work we do so that we can support you in your low tox life is join us in the Low Tox Club. You'll get access to amazing member masterclasses where we invite some of our best show guests for a live Q&A with members. You also have great shopping discounts from low tox businesses and honestly, the nicest low tox community Facebook group that exists on the internet. I do hope you join us there. It costs just the price of a coffee a month on average. Head to lowtoxlife.com, hit the Explore tab, and Low Tox Club is the first option there. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.